Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jessica Flynn and I am the owner and maker of Flynn Sisters Boutique. And today we're going to be doing a tutorial on glitter and epoxy clipboards. These clipboards are so adorable and I think this is the perfect place to clip your to-do list for the day to help keep you on task. And if you're anything like me, you totally thrive on to-do lists. So I'm really excited to bring you guys this video. I'm going to have all the products that you see in this tutorial listed and linked down below. You might even find some discount codes for you there as well. All right, you guys, so that's enough chit chat for me. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, you guys, so here we go. We're gonna start with a clear clipboard that I got on Amazon. This is the cheaper of the ones that you could find. You can get fancy ones with cuter clips than this, but this one was super cheap. I think it was like a couple bucks each and you get a whole pack of them. So while I was kind of practicing my technique for this, I figured the cheap ones were better, especially since I had already ruined one of the more expensive ones. So anyway, you're just going to pull all this plastic off that it comes with it. And then once you get all your plastic removed, we want to secure that clip so that it stays open for most of this process, just so it's out of the way, we don't get epoxy on it, and so we can design the front of our board. If you wanted to just design the back of the board so that your glitter shows through, you absolutely could do that, and then you probably wouldn't have to tie this clip back. But for what I want to do with a pattern vinyl, I have to start with my design on the front. So I definitely have to tie this clip back. And we're just using some basic floral wire through the two top loops to do that. And you can leave that on for a few days. So after I've got that tied back, I'm going to tape off the back of my clipboard just so we don't get any dripped epoxy or anything messy on the back here while we're working on it. When you're applying your tape, you're going to want to apply it so it has a bit of an overlap so you can cut it really close to the edge like this. Once we've got that all taped off, I'm going to prep the side that we'll be working with first, which in this case is the front of the board, and I'm just going to lightly sand it with a 60 grit sanding block, or whatever kind of grit sandpaper you have is totally fine. And then we're going to clean it up with some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel. And after you get it cleaned up, you really want to go over this and make sure that there is like no lint or debris, because we're going to be applying some printed vinyl to this and we don't want any kind of debris causing issues for us or bumps with our vinyl. This design, I wanted to have kind of like a split design with my vinyl. So like the top portion would have this polka dot floral and the bottom portion is going to have a solid floral. So I'm just going to measure and mark the line in which I want my top pattern to end at, so that when I trim it, I have a nice straight line where both of my patterns will eventually meet. This technique is really similar to how I apply printed vinyl to like my split tumblers, where I'll use masking tape or painter's tape to kind of mark the lines on where I want vinyl to start and stop. And I also use those same lines from the tape as a guide for trimming my vinyl in really nice clean lines. So that's all we're really doing here. The hardest part about using this particular clipboard is working around that clip at the top. Obviously, you don't have to put printed vinyl around this whole top half because it is super complicated to work around this clip. But if you're wanting to do it, it's possible. You just want to kind of put your vinyl over that clip to get an idea of where you're going to have to trim out a notch so that it fits around the mounting clip up at the top. And just kind of cut out that notch so that when you go to apply it, obviously you're not having to do too much maneuvering around that clip because it's already out of the way. And then what I like to do is just peel off the backing from one corner of the vinyl and use that one exposed corner of vinyl as my anchor to start with. Here you can see that I pulled up that one corner and I'm just going to cut off a portion of that paper backing, and I'm going to use that corner as my anchor to start. And then you're just going to very carefully apply it around that clip up at the top corner as carefully as you can, and then cut out any kind of notches that you might need to make to get as close to that mounting clip as you can. I'll show you what I mean later. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. And I think once you guys see like your vinyl on and around that clip, you'll kind of know what to do as you're looking at it. We're using glossy permanent vinyl that's already been printed with this pattern when we bought it. We get this from the vinylcottageshop.com. I'll have a link for this vinyl as well as a discount code listed down below in the description box. So you're just going to do your very best to get that corner anchored on and trimmed around as close to the mounting clip as you can, and then use your vinyl scraper to smooth out any kind of bubbles. We're going to repeat that same process for the other side. And again, we're just trying to notch out that section of vinyl that's going around the clip as carefully as possible. Being careful not to trim away too much. We almost want to have a little overlap that's going to be going over that clip so that we can trim it off super close to the edge to get a nice clean finish. Once we've got the two top corners out of the way, which is really the hardest part, we're going to trim up around that mounting clip up at the top there, and then peel back our vinyl, and super carefully we're going to spread on the rest of the vinyl with our vinyl scraper. Before we do that, you want to make sure that you have absolutely no debris on your clipboard before you go into this. And you'll want to leave the paper backing on your vinyl for as long as you can. It's the same type of application that we would use to put vinyl on tumblers when we do our half and full wraps. And just take your time, let the vinyl scraper be the one to take off the paper on that backing. Okay, so the vinyl scraper is what's pushing the backing paper off of your vinyl as you're spreading it onto the cup, okay? And this is going to help you get as little bubbles as possible. If you notice a large section of bubbles or some wrinkles, pull your vinyl up and press it down again. Once you get to the very end, if you notice any kind of bubbles or tiny bubbles, you can poke them with a craft knife and rub them out with your finger or your vinyl scraper. Then I'm going to take my craft knife and trim off all the edges and trim around our tape line that we had created earlier. Trying to get around these corners is a little tricky, but you really want to try and trim this as close to the edge as you can. All right, and I'm going to do the same exact thing for this bottom section of vinyl. I thought these two patterns coordinated so well together and look so cute in this design. The bottom part is obviously easier because you don't have to deal with that dang clip. So if you guys just wanted to do like vinyl on the bottom and glitter on the top, that would certainly be way easier. So once we've got that vinyl on there, we're going to lay this flat this time, which is the easier part about putting the vinyl on the bottom, is you can lay the board completely flat, which makes it easier for trimming the vinyl off the sides. So after I got all my vinyl on here, I changed my mind about how I wanted this design to go. So I decided that I wanted to actually have a cutout between my two patterns. So using my same masking tape and craft knife technique, I used that to cut out a really nice straight section out of my vinyl. This is so I can apply glitter to the back of my clipboard so the glitter will shine through that little peekaboo section of vinyl. So I thought that was going to be a really fun design element, and it was really easy to kind of edit my design at this point by masking off, measuring, and slicing it out. I also decided that I wanted to add some vinyl strips to the edges of my patterns here. So I just cut these using my Cricut. In Cricut Design Space, you're going to use the shapes feature and cut a square at 11.5 inches by 0.25 inches and duplicate that twice so you end up with 2 perfectly cut strips of vinyl. You can make yours any kind of width or whatever you want. I just kind of liked this particular width for this design. And then we're just going to trim off any remaining excess with our craft knife. And then after I have these 2 vinyl strips laid, I wanted to apply the Glitter Snob logo from Peachy Olive Glitters. Please don't ask me where I got this logo. I have special permission to use it. And so this logo is kind of a pain to apply with vinyl because it has these super tiny little letters on the bottom of the logo. So I reverse weeded the bottom section. And the way that I like to do that is by kiss cutting the portion of my decal that needs to be reverse weeded. And then I would regularly weed the not so fussy section, if that makes sense. If you're watching what I'm doing here in the video, you'll kind of see what I mean. We ran our craft knife along the sensitive section of our decal and then weeded the rest. And then we're going to transfer that, just as you see it here, to our clipboard, and we'll weed the remaining portion of that decal on the clipboard after it's been transferred. This is a great way for you guys to weed around super tiny sensitive fonts that have a hard time with weeding. All right, so once we've got all that vinyl work done on the front of our board, we're going to make sure that we have this on an elevated level surface. I just put my clipboard on top of a roll of tape here, and then I wedged some stuff there to make sure that it was level. It has to be completely level or some of your epoxy might run off. And I'm applying 30 milliliters of epoxy. So that's 15 milliliters of part A and 15 milliliters of part B. And that is plenty to coat the top of our board just as it is now. If you applied glitter instead of vinyl, you probably would need almost double that amount of epoxy to cover. So notice that I had taped off that mounting clip before we epoxied, and almost immediately after I applied my epoxy, I removed that tape, and I did that in case I needed to clean up any spots that might have happened when I removed the tape. It was just easier for me to do it that way. All right, and we let that dry for about 8 to 12 hours. And then I turned the clipboard around after it was totally dry, and we're gonna remove all the tape that we have on the back here. If you have any stubborn pieces that kind of dripped around the back, you can just kind of scrape those off with your craft knife. And I also kind of ran my craft knife along the edges to get any kind of excess epoxy that was stuck on there. It's pretty easy to pop it off. Okay, so once we've got that all cleaned up, we're going to start prepping the back for our glitter and epoxy. I'm going to first remove that twist tie off our clip because we don't need it anymore. We can let that fall back into place. And to prep the back, I'm going to do the same thing that I did to prep the front. Just sand it really quick with an 80 grit sanding block and wipe it clean with some rubbing alcohol and paper towels. All right, and next we're going to mix up 60 milliliters of epoxy. So I've got two 30-ounce medicine cups of mixed epoxy here, and I'm just going to add some glitter to it. You want to add enough glitter to where you have even distribution of your glitter through all of your epoxy, but also not too much to where your epoxy gets really thick and hard to spread. So, kind of take note of the thickness of my epoxy here after I've mixed the glitter. It's still really easy to spread, but you still have decent coverage with the glitter. Keep in mind, you guys, you do not have to glitter and epoxy your clipboard this way. You can glitter it any way you're comfortable with. If you'd rather apply your glitter with epoxy method and then apply, your layers of epoxy over it, just like we would a tumbler, you could definitely do that. I just kind of thought it would be easier for me to do a one-step process on the glitter portion of this design, but what might be easier for me may not be easier for everybody else. I'm aware of that. So anyway, we're just going to pour all that glitter and epoxy on, and I'm spreading it out with a gloved hand, making sure I have everything spread out nicely and evenly. And then I'm going to hit this with my torch and let it rest for 8 to 12 hours. Just like we did on the front side, you want to make sure that you have this on a really nice level surface so you don't get any pooling with your epoxy, and you also want to make sure that it's in a safe place where it will be, you know, protected from dust and debris and things like that. So once our epoxy dries, we're completely done. So that's it for this tutorial. I really love how this turned out. I think these would be such a fabulous gift if you paired them with like one of those pens that we made a couple weeks ago, the glitter and epoxy pens, and maybe like a matching tumbler. How fabulous of a gift would that be for teachers, Mother's Day? So many cute ideas. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and if you liked our video, please be sure to give us a thumbs up. See you soon. If you love this video, you could check out our last video here. Also be sure to find us on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and of course subscribe for all our new videos that come out every Wednesday and Saturday. Thanks so much for watching. See you soon.